800-296-1360. That's 800-296-1360.
Ask yourself the damn question. It's winning the...
Santos Show is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, co-hosted by SFL CEO Zach Stanley and SFL COO Seth Young. The Star Fantasy League Show, on the air.
Make this game your finest hour.
Now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined, as always, by CEO of StarFantasyLeague.com, Mr. Zach Stanley.
You didn't trick me that time. I appreciate it, Jonathan.
Yeah, sometimes I like to give you a little goad.
Like to turn some tricks sometimes?
Yeah, I you know who likes to turn some tricks sometimes is SFL COO, Mr. Seth Young. You set yourself up for that one,
I'm
Seth.
back from my weekend trip to Latvia.
Okay, you went away.
The band's back together.
Well, I think we were back together on... Oh, we weren't. You were gone on Friday.
That's true.
Before we get started on the show, I would like to give a gigantic shout-out. You know where I'm going with this, right, Zach?
Big Nick?
No. What? No, not Big Nick.
I believe he's talking about the beautiful men at Genesee Media.
This is correct. Would you like to talk a little bit about Rochester, Zach, since this is your thing?
Yeah,
this is your place.
This is my hometown, and we are now on 1310 and 1590 AM radio, The Team.
In
Rochester, New York.
Beautiful Rochester.
Coming soon to FM airwaves near you. I'd like to give a shout-out to Rafe Moscow, Ed Trefsker, and Brian McGlynn for all the help putting this together with us.
This is true. So now people, when we say, oh, you're on the radio locally, we can say, yeah, you can turn on your radio and actually listen to it.
No, turn off your radio.
Oh, my.
You have to wait.
No.
I say people
He's using it too early.
People aren't listening. They know of StarFantasyLeagues.com because we have the offices down in Village Gate. They see it. Now they can listen to us talk about fantasy sports for a living. Today we're going to be talking, obviously, daily fantasy basketball for Monday. We're going to break down Tuesday. And you know how we're going to cap the show off, guys? Jonald's Mailbag returns.
Live in Rochester, baby.
This is true. We are live in Rochester, and we are all around the country. And we're coming back and talking NBA for Monday. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Your season for big...
basketball, hockey, and baseball, and earn cold hard cash every single day. It's legal, it's brand new, and it's awesome. At Star Fantasy,
There's not going to be a lot of dings today. I'm there working on the computer during the segments.
Or even play the Star Fantasy League's free tournaments for your chance to win something
Sorry,
for
guys.
nothing. Put your money where your mouth is. Prove your expertise. Get your game on today at StarFantasyLeagues.com. Nick Monsanto is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Feel free to tweet the show at SFL Show.
Let's do this.
Time for your Star Fantasy League's NBA Fantasy Lineup Breakdown.
Yep.
You heard the man. We are doing NBA Fantasy Lineup Breakdown on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Seth, are you ready?
I have a winning lineup today.
Okay, I don't believe you now. You get really, really confident on Friday's show. Your team started off really hot and then kind of trailed off.
Are we like an hour into the games right now?
So I've been doing my research.
No, I meant literally when he was on Friday. His team got really hot.
He says he has a winning lineup today. How does he possibly know that?
No, he thinks.
I think I know I have a winning. I know I have a winning lineup. And you know why?
I highly doubt that.
I'm crediting the show because sitting here next to you guys makes me feel smarter about basketball.
See,
That's true.
he's trying to play us up like this so that we don't smash him.
Yeah, he's giving us a little sugar.
No, it's the truth. I sit here and I listen to you guys talk about basketball and talk about who your picks are, and I as I start drafting lineups, I start to gradually learn more and more about the game. I'm a novice. I feel like less of a novice now. I feel like by the end of the season, I'm going to be a full-blown daily fantasy sports player in basketball.
Well,
Yeah, last week he was running around the office saying he scored more than 200 points. He couldn't get over it.
You know, it was my first time on StarFantasyLeagues.com reaching the over 200 hump. And I was proud of it. I definitely was. I was averaging about 155, 160 points.
That's really bad.
Which is bad. But now that I'm learning a bit more listening to you guys, and I think probably our listeners feel the same way, my scores are getting better.
I was gonna say that's the whole reason you guys are listening to this show. We're definitely trying to make you guys better at daily fantasy sports. We're not just throwing out people and saying, "Oh, you should put them in your lineup." It's exactly how we got to that point, why we put them in, how our preparation is to actually make our lineups, and that's why we're going to let Seth go over his lineup today. We instead of just saying, "Oh, yes or no," we tell him why we like his pick, why we don't like his pick. Remember, we're talking at StarFantasyLeagues.com. NBA basketball is $100,000 salary cap, 2 guards, 2 forwards, 2 centers, 2 utility. That's any player you want. Got to stay under the cap. If you get the most points, you win the most money. Easy game, right, Seth?
And Seth, I will say I am impressed with the commitment that you have shown in recent weeks.
I'm having a great time with it.
His 5-minute lineup.
I wasn't too much of a basketball fan, but I got to tell you, like doing this kind of stuff, it really makes me get into the game more.
It makes every game you watch more exciting. Even if it's Milwaukee and Philadelphia. Oh wait, that still isn't exciting.
And you're not just saying that. That's the truth.
No, it's legitimate. Yeah.
We could sit here and be a little bit biased, but that's really the truth of it here. I mean, I'm really enjoying this, and I think that you guys are going to have good things to say about my lineup today.
See,
so
okay, he just said that, and I'm going to be so all over him.
So first off, I've got my favorite player in the NBA right now, Ersan Minnesota.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, we're streaming live, and behind us is a picture of Ersan Ilyasova wearing a Timberwolves uniform.
That's because I didn't know what team he played for before this started, but you know what? You guys are always harping on the fact that Philadelphia is such a bad team, as is evident by the game that's going on right now. It's a 29-point game at half. Ersan had a decent value, just under $10,000. I drafted him for my team today.
These games are very concerning for me every time.
Why? Because every game gets us to a 30-point lead, and not to mention no Evan Turner now, no Spencer Hawes. Name their starting lineup. Go. Exactly.
Thaddeus Young.
Yeah, thank you. I was
Michael
waiting
Carter
for one
Williams.
person.
Michael Carter Williams.
Tony Roten apparently
Tony
started
Roten
today.
is not start. He did?
Yep. He got last minute was changed into the starting lineup. That's how bad that team
okay.
is. Brett Brown has no clue what he's
that
doing.
team is in shambles, and really, I mean, that's evident. The Bucks, who are also kind of in shambles,
They are the second or third worst team in the NBA right
are
now.
crushing.
Yep.
So I like Ersan, and on that same team, I have Brandon Knight, who has been putting up some serious points, and in a game against Philadelphia, you have to feel like he's going to go off.
Tonight, I was not opposed to putting 2 or 3 Milwaukee Bucks in my lineup, depending, because you can get 2 or 3 of them for really low price. Like Brandon Knight's $12,000. I believe Nate Walters was like $8,400. Ilyasova's around
taking
there.
players against Philly has been so great all year long, but the past couple weeks, they've just been getting killed so bad that by the time it's the middle of the third quarter, your players are out.
Okay, but don't forget, the last time the Clippers played them about a week and a half ago, Blake through 3 quarters had 50. DeAndre had 46 through 3 quarters. I mean, you can still get your value through 3 quarters if they're scoring 112 with the starters in.
It tends to be more unfortunate when it's against the worst teams. I mean, obviously Blake can go off in 3 quarters at any game, but in a night like this, you're looking at guys who really need to play 4 quarters because they're not the type of stars that Blake Griffin is.
Well, don't forget this is a 5-game slate tonight too. So I mean, it's pretty.
You only
slim
have so many
pickings.
options,
And there's a lot of guys.
Yeah,
who are
and
out
it wasn't,
too.
and it's not like this game was some huge spread. These are 2 teams that have been horrible all year long. So
They're
you would
two
think that
atrocities.
it could be close, but evidently not.
On the other side of the ball here, pun intended, I have Thaddeus Young, who has been putting up some serious points for the Sixers, and as really the only guy that's on that team that's scoring points, I thought that was also.
You
a good
mean
play
that quite literally, right? He's the only guy on the court.
There's nobody else on that team.
Don't sneeze at MCW.
Well, yeah, but
He's not to be sneezed at.
He's been playing less and less minutes. I feel like he's part of the tanking
He
brigade.
played almost 40 last game and got I think it was either 30. I think it was 37 fantasy points last game. So
He's been over the last month or so. He's been
well,
fairly inconsistent with his injuries.
There are rumors around the NBA world that Philly is deliberately tanking, which would which would mean that MCW
sense.
wouldn't get as many minutes. I would think.
I've been feel like they're throttling his minutes a little bit.
So moving on, I have in my lineup tonight Carmelo Anthony, who has just been an absolute monster.
Wait,
for
Seth, he's not
fantasy.
playing tonight. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
I just wanted to see if you go. Wait, he's not.
You can't play with me like that. I'm really trying to.
He gets very nervous.
He does. He's like, wait, is Brook Lopez not in? What's going on, guys?
That was you. That wasn't me.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So-
Okay, Seth.
So I've got Melo in. He's been a stud all year, and recently he's been putting up some monster numbers. So I couldn't, I have him in my lineup as my stud.
He's the most consistent player on that team. I mean, there are some injuries. J.R. Smith's apparently still starting on this team for some strange reason.
I would have taken the 2 stud options that were also available over Carmelo tonight, which would be Blake Griffin and Anthony Davis. I would have gone with one of them instead of going with Carmelo. That's my judgment.
On the same team, the Pelicans, as Anthony Davis, I took Eric Gordon tonight. I thought he was a decent play. He's pretty low salary on StarFantasyLeagues.com, and I thought he was a decent plug and play. What do you guys think about that?
I think there were a lot of people. What was his salary at? Do you remember?
He's like around 11,000.
Yeah, I think that's terrible.
Yeah, you're not
I
high
think
on
that's an absolutely
Eric Gordon
miserable
recently
play.
has been going off, but I mean, he has a decent. He's going up against Jamal Crawford, who can't guard, a stick.
I can't
Or a
condone
broom.
it. I can't condone
Why?
it.
Why
I
do
don't
you
like
say that?
Because it's too high for Eric Gordon. There's too many value plays out there tonight that you could have taken. I think.
Well, who would you have taken in place of Eric Gordon for a similar salary? I mean, can you think of anybody offhand?
Who was at 11,000? I don't know.
Brandon Knight was around 11,000.
Yeah,
he was around low 12s.
Rondo was at 12.5.
Yeah, Rondo's at 12.5.
Who was an automatic start in my opinion, and I'm guessing you don't have him in.
I certainly don't, but I'll tell you who
Oh
I do
my!
have
Hold
in my
on
lineup.
a minute.
12.5.
I've got Greg Monroe
Hold
in my lineup.
on, hold on. You don't have Trey. You don't have Trey Burke either.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have a huge
You want me
issue.
to get through my lineup or not?
No. We're saying Eric Gordon. That's why you said who do you have. So we're trying to see who you don't have.
I don't have Trey Burke. I don't have Rajon Rondo. I don't have Jeff Green.
Oh,
I
good.
know that.
Good.
I know that Jared Sullinger is not playing tonight, so
Oh,
I put Chris Humphries.
There
in my
we
lineup.
go.
All right, I like that.
That one we're all okay with. Chris Humphries the other day was absolutely on fire. I love the guy. I don't care about his past. He always gets great stats when he's in.
that one season with the Nets, he
averaged
was
like
a
15
fantasy
and
study. He
11,
was like
yeah.
a double guy
I had him.
every
I won him.
game. And I mean, it's just unfortunate that he's not getting enough minutes. But I assume that's for legitimate reasons
It's
on
not.
the part of the.
It really isn't.
Well,
though.
I've been reading that he's having some back spasms, so Kelly Olynyk should also get some time tonight.
I mean, he's not that good of a defender.
He's not.
So,
But I guess the Celtics still do preach defense. That makes sense.
I mean, I think he should be getting more minutes. But you're starting Bass and Sullinger down low. There's no way around that as long as they're healthy.
Tonight he was priced very well, and honestly, he was the last person I put in my lineup. I went the other way. I built from the top down. I know that you always talk about building a lineup from the bottom up so you can identify the value players. I didn't do that, and I was having trouble fitting somebody in, which is why I think building the lineup your way is probably the best way to go. But notwithstanding,
Well, I
put
mean, you
Chris
still have to
Humphries in.
identify who you like at the top, because if you get to the top, you go, well, I have like 3 or 4 options. You got to go, I like this guy over this guy. That's why
Yeah,
you
I
don't-
also think a good option is to look at your centers as well because they're so
Center's usually the hardest position.
Yeah, they're
to
fairly
get in
limited
on.
every night, and you pretty much know who your 2 guys are going to be. So you can also go about getting those guys out of the way.
Yeah,
especially on Star Fantasy Leagues, you've got 2 centers. So
Yeah, can we please talk about? He quickly mentioned Greg Monroe.
Yeah,
Would
I've
you
got Greg
ever
Monroe
touch
in.
anywhere near Greg Monroe?
I know we've talked about this before. The Pistons
Are confusing
are
everyone.
confusing, and if you have a favorable matchup down low, you're looking at Drummond more than Monroe, and if you have a favorable matchup at power forward, small forward, I think you're looking at Josh Smith.
Exactly. Yeah, it's never Monroe.
Well, I just don't know when Greg Monroe is going to produce. He does produce, and he's had a few good games in his last 5 or 6. But you just don't know when it's going to be, really.
Yeah, it's very
It's hard to rely on anyone on that team,
hold on.
honestly.
The way that you predict how he's going to play well is when Andre Drummond fouls like 3 times in the first 5 minutes, which is almost every game, but you just never know, right?
Yeah, and I would look at it down the wire. If one of those guys ends up getting injured, then you really got to look at the other 2.
This is very true.
And I know we're going to break, but my last player is Matt Barnes, who I know you guys have probably something to say about.
Oh, when we come back, we're gonna throttle you on Matt Barnes. We got
Figured
Charles
you might.
Mailbag, and you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Sound good, guys.
Tired of paying outrageous...
Get cash fast directly to you when you need it and use it for whatever
Stand
you
by.
want. Call toll free 800-473-0563. 800-473-0563.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Seth. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy Leagues team by tweeting at SFL Show.
Yep.
I don't think that will ever
It gets
get
me
old.
every time. It literally gets me every time.
If you're listening locally in Rochester, New York, and that's the first time hearing it, come on, tweet us.
Read the mail.
Yeah. It's mailbag time, guys. If you're listening, tweet us at SFL Show if you love that intro as much as we do. It's amazing.
First of all, don't tweet us. And second of all, it's mailbag time.
All right, today's mailbag time features some interesting people that send us mail, tweets, messages, pigeons. I don't really know what happens. Who knows? All right, let's start off. Otto the Orange writes, Syracuse gets a bogus call in the final second loss to Duke, and we drop from first to fourth in the nation. What is going on here?
You really think that was a bogus call?
Yes, I do.
That was okay.
I mean, I'm a homer. We all know John's a homer.
If you compare the charge that Benajay took, right?
Yeah.
If you compare the charge that he took, which was called a block, and the exact same play at the end of the game that was called a charge, they're the same play. Call consistently if you're going to call, because they would have swung the game either way.
I thought it was even worse. I mean,
he slid over. He was underneath. He slid under.
I don't think it was close, and honestly, he hit him with like his inner thigh when he was coming across and going under the hoop.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know you're intrigued by that, John.
Let me tell you my favorite part about the end of that game.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's going to say.
When Boeheim ran on the court and he spread his arms, and the internet. Let me just say, the internet is a wonderful place. My favorite one was seeing him on the Titanic.
Your favorite what? Your favorite meme?
My favorite meme.
Yes.
Was seeing him on the Titanic. There was also one with him running away from a T-Rex.
No, I'm sorry. The best one was the one where he's next to Michael Jackson in the white shirt and he's doing the Michael pose. That's
incredible.
The best one.
God bless you, internet.
I actually, on my rundown for the questions, I do have Boeheim meme talk. That is part of this.
The way he reacted put the game even more in the tank, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Do you think I bet you his players are going to rally around him even more, going, okay, that's who has our back? I love it. That he wanted the thing that I was reading about was like, you know how hard it is for someone to sweep Duke in the ACC? It just does not happen, and we had a chance to do it for Syracuse, our first year in the division. That's pretty impressive. Sorry,
they have been impressive, and I honestly don't think they're going anywhere this year. This is just a little bump in the road that everybody has throughout a long college season.
Really? Because I hear a lot of people saying they're just not going anywhere this year.
Oh, get out
this
of
loss
here.
and the other loss that they took to
they're giving up
BC.
Did you learn that when you were just scrolling the internet looking at pictures?
Sometimes I watch college basketball.
If you watch this team,
sometimes I don't.
They're very, very competitive, and they have a guy who has ice water in his veins in Tyler Ennis, and they have a scorer in CJ Fair. I feel like this team does have a chance. They should be, if they don't get back to the Final Four like they did last year, it's considered a disappointment for this team.
Seth's version of reading informative articles is looking at GIFs.
All right.
What about it?
That is not
like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, that is not how you know. On the Star Fantasy League show, we do not just look at GIFs and go, ooh, information.
You don't read by looking at pictures?
You know that on his phone he has like a library of GIFs?
Yeah, I know. He
has tons of them that he sends.
I have all but stopped responding with text. I only respond with pictures.
This is not a lie. He actually does that. All right, let's move on. Vladimir Putin writes, did you see that we made a funny joke at our own expense at the Olympic closing ceremony? The Olympics were a great success.
Great success, many Olympics.
Much amazed, many Olympics.
I did see that. And I guess you kind of have to – I thought it was great.
Do you think Putin actually agreed to do that? Because he's probably like, don't do it.
You know what?
Don't mention it.
I bet Putin is a total dude sometimes. I mean, he's
a total stud.
I don't really want to talk politics on a fantasy sports show.
Yeah, please don't then.
But I could see the guy being a lot like George Bush in the way that he may not – well, he's a great leader in Russia.
George Bush, total dude.
He's the kind of guy that you might want to just sit down and have a beer with. Like, I could see that. I would want to sit down and have a beer with Vladimir Putin.
Or 7 shots of vodka or whatever he's into.
I have no interest in doing that, and I'm glad to say that we will never see the Olympics in that city again.
Oh, never.
Or in Russia anytime soon.
It'll
Russia
never
just
happen.
You did not bring it, guys. I feel like the only thing we were talking about was how bad the conditions were, how wrong everything went. We weren't talking about the sports.
The ratings were terrible.
And hockey. The hockey is all that we talked about, and that was it on this show. All right?
That was the only thing I was excited about, just because everything that was live was in the morning when we were working, and everybody else was working around the country.
This is very true. All right, before we get too off topic with the terrible Olympics, let's move on to an actual important question. Oh, look who wrote in. Father Mohagan writes, what type of significance do you put on Jason Collins, Michael Sam, and Darren Young all making headlines for LGBT equality on the same night? Seth, do you know who all 3 of those people are?
Yes, I do. And you know what?
Oh, wait, you do know who the third one is?
I think it's great that they're using their platforms for something good. But at the same time, I really don't care anymore. And
that's okay. I think that's good. That's where we should be at right now. People going.
I think it is where we should be at, but it is not where we are at. And there are so many locations in the country that are so far from that it is important that it gets out there. It is important that these people come out and talk about it, and it's important that the news coverages it. because this is something that needs to change in a lot of other places.
Well, my problem on SportsCenter is
Covers it.
Yeah, you heard it. Zach's a little off here on the Star Fantasy League show. Tweet us at SFL Show if you think that he should learn English.
If I should coverage his things.
Yeah, I really do want to weigh in on this because I know the media. These guys all have a trial by media before they even step on the court or the field or whatever they're doing, and. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that we're fighting for marriage equality and rights for everybody in the country. But at the same time, it's like I'm just sick of hearing about it. I just don't care. I'm sure a lot of people around the world agree with me. I don't care what you do in the bedroom.
That's not the point.
I don't care what you do in the bedroom. I don't want to hear ESPN talking about it all day.
Why did SportsCenter have to give 4 minutes to a highlight like that?
But the point is that the more people need to think that the way you do, because there isn't enough people that think that way.
But not everybody is going to think the way that I do, and nothing's going to change that.
Yes, it is going to change.
Education.
Yeah, because the more this is accepted, the more it is passed in law, the more people will take it as what is. Rather than something that shouldn't be talked about.
Sure, but you know what?
The more we talk about it, the better.
I feel like the media was forgetting that Jason Collins was gay before he signed with the Nets.
Yes, but he wasn't openly gay.
Yeah,
that's what's important about it.
That was the big thing. Although the coolest moment of the day, do you guys actually know who Darren Young is? He's a WWE wrestler. They had a pay-per-view on Sunday night. He actually came to the ring in a no-hate sweatshirt, which they haven't acknowledged he's openly gay on the air yet. So him doing that the day that Jason Collins signed, obviously there was a correlation there. He's basically standing by his brother. I thought it was a cool moment. They didn't actually didn't make light of it at all. They just let him do it, and it is what it is.
You know what? I think it's great, but I also think that we really should really start focusing on what these guys are doing on the court or on the field when they're playing, and then whatever they do off the court for their advocacy is what they do off the court. And that's cool. I mean, these guys are famous. They have a lot of money.
We're talking about people that are coming out supporting them, and supporting them helps change.
Fair enough.
All right, I feel like
I can't argue with that. That's fair enough.
That's a good point, Dan. We're gonna run around in circles if we don't. All right, let's move on. Sammy Davis Jr. writes, do you think Johnny Manziel helped or hurt his draft stock by electing not to throw at the Combine? Did anything else stand out from the Combine at all from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, I think Johnny Manziel hurt his draft stock when he came out as gay. I mean, are we still talking about this?
No, we're not. We've moved on.
How did you just? Where did
you basically complained that we were talking about it a minute ago, and then just brought it up again.
Sometimes
I don't know what you're talking about.
Every time you turn on the TV, every time you turn on the radio, it's about a gay athlete.
Wait,
what are you doing?
I said Johnny Manziel, not Michael Sam. Jesus, Seth.
Same thing.
I'm just so taken aback at this point. Can we move on, please?
Did you hear about the guy?
Seth.
I think it was a San Diego State running back who decided not to showcase himself at the Combine for religious reasons.
He said that
God would tell him he could play for the Seattle Seahawks.
That was maybe one of the most confusing things, more confusing than Manziel electing not to throw.
He was a late round pick as it was. And I think that he's going to fall into undrafted free agent status at this point. I mean, I don't see how that works. You know what? I don't really think Johnny Manziel has to throw at the Combine. I think the most important things for him were the skill things, where
the skill things.
Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? The agility type stuff.
Oh yeah, he ran a 4.68 40, which was considered pretty good for him. He did measure a little small. Surprise, he's small. Big deal.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts his draft stock at all. I think he's going to go where he was going to go in the first place. That's how I feel.
The biggest thing that I saw coming out of this was Sammy Watkins, wide receiver, was drawing comparisons to A.J. Green. They said he may be a top 5 pick now.
There have been a lot of people that are impressed with this. I've heard all good things. So,
well, anytime you're drawing comparisons to A.J. Green, who was a beast coming out of college, that's a very good comp for you.
Go Bills.
There was also some talk about Jadeveon Clowney only putting up 22 reps in the bench press part, and he joins an elite crowd in guys like Aldon Smith and a few other people who only put up 21 or 22 reps on the bench press.
He was also the fastest end.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
40.
but
I don't think that has anything to do with
the difference between 1 or 2 reps on a bench and sacking a quarterback, come on now. You really think that has that much of an impact? I feel like a lot of these combines.
It's a signal of cardiovascular endurance in a way.
Well, remember Jadeveon Clowney almost passed out the first 2 games of the season. He was
I don't really care that
gassed.
much about the combine, honestly.
Yeah, I think
I just don't take too much. All
right, you know what? Let's jump off. Let's get one more question in on John's mailbag. Jim Harbaugh writes, did you hear that the Cleveland Browns tried to trade for me? Are they insane? I would never get within 100 feet of Brandon Weeden.
I couldn't believe what they were willing to offer up.
I couldn't believe that.
It was a couple picks.
Yeah, it was a couple picks. But
like top picks.
For a coach?
Yeah. The owner of the 49ers said this didn't even get past like them calling and saying, "Can we trade?" And he goes, "No." Like, okay, if you are Cleveland, this is making news, but realistically, like, what is this saying to your next head coach? Like, we wanted Jim Harbaugh, but we got you.
Well, this is making news because somebody managed to get wind of it and bring it up as news because they already have their coach, so there's no way they wanted to talk about it.
No, I bet you somebody, you know what? It's probably Mike Lombardi who just basically got fired from the team. I wouldn't be surprised if it's somebody who's been in the organization. What are you going to do? Jim Harbaugh staying with the 49ers? They have a chance to win it all this year.
Ooh, whistleblowers.
Yeah, really. All right, coming after the break, we're going to break down Tuesday NBA on StarFantasyLeagues.com. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
FantasyLeagues.com, where you can play fantasy sports like football, basketball, hockey, and baseball and earn cold hard cash every single day. It's legal, it's brand new, and it's awesome. At StarFantasyLeagues.com, you can play your favorite fantasy sport for real money against real people, or even play the Star Fantasy League's free tournaments for
Stand by, boys.
Something for nothing. Put your money where your mouth is. Prove your expertise. Get your game on today at StarFantasyLeagues.com. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Nick Monsanto Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
You're up.
Yeah, you guys should probably tweet at us.
Don't tweet at us.
Yeah, you won't do it. You're not man enough to tweet at us, are you?
Do it.
Nobody cares about Twitter, John.
I know, that's true. You should probably send an email to something@something.com.
Whatever you do, just don't get on your computer and tweet us at SFL Show. We don't want to hear from you. We don't care what you have to say. We don't want your questions. They're all probably stupid. Anyway.
As always, the views of Seth Young are not the views of Star Fantasy League Show or StarFantasyLeagues.com. They are just Seth's dumb views.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate the buzz. Unless you were buzzing John for being an idiot. Like
no,
usual.
that's not true at all. What we're doing right now is Great, wonderful. We are breaking down the Tuesday NBA lineup on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Zach, this is your favorite part of the show. We know.
Yeah, this is time for you to shut down, Seth, or just make like 5 or 6 dumb comments.
You were just asking before the show
Yeah.
started. Before I got on the air, you were just sitting there asking for my help building a lineup.
No, I was not.
Yeah,
That's a falsehood.
That's never happened in the history of anything.
That definitely happened. I was right there.
It's not happened.
It didn't happen.
Okay, I'd like to say that when we do this, Seth does ask questions and says, "Oh, what about this?" And then somehow he comes up with Jarrett Jack every time. And okay, the good thing is Cleveland is playing tomorrow, Seth, so you get to ask the question again. Let's start with that game.
Toronto. To ask you some questions.
Ask yourself the damn question.
Talk about how fond you are of Jarrett Jack for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, okay. Toronto's playing at Cleveland. Give me a reason you love Jarrett Jack for absolutely no reason.
He has 2 first names.
I can't dispute that. That he actually does have 2 first names.
That's true.
But
he could just as easily be Jack Jarrett.
that is true. He could be Jack Jarrett. Thank you
That
so
might make
much
even
for
more
that.
sense.
Yeah, that is true. But seriously, Toronto, Cleveland, there's only 2 things that stand out to me in this game. One is Amir Johnson may or may not play again. That's something I would look at because Patrick Patterson, when given the minutes, has actually been really serviceable. Cleveland's not terrible against power forward. They're about in the middle of the league, but Patterson is down like the 8,000-9,000 range. I kind of like him at that.
Yeah,
but
you
also,
definitely got to give him a look, especially if Amir is out.
But Kyle
Lowry.
boy, your boy Kyle Lowry. We like to pick on Kyrie Irving, but it's not without merit. I mean, you have to go after anybody who's playing against Kyrie.
Well, how is Kyrie on defense?
What's that?
How is Kyrie on defense?
Okay, for
he
someone
he doesn't participate.
Hold on, for someone that's listened to us say we hate Kyrie's defense so much, why would you ask that question, Seth? You know for a fact
and
say
we
it every
literally
time.
pick point guards against him almost every time.
Him
we
and
talk about
Damian Lillard, who we're going to talk about in a few seconds. Those are the 2 guys I target almost, and Tony Parker actually. That's pretty much what you need to do. You need to look at matchups. We make our little Excel spreadsheet that has how players are against certain defenses and all that stuff.
all the different positions.
And it always breaks down to point guards, and they're almost always Kyrie, Damian Lillard, Tony Parker, Ricky Rubio's not that good on defense. These are the kind of matchups you need to look at. Just point guards that they're scorers, but they just really don't put in the effort on the other end. That's been a knock against Kyrie since he came into the league.
Yeah, he's not very good down there. I love Kyle Lowry tomorrow night. I think he's going to be a hot pick, and I think you'd be remiss to not have him in your lineup.
I believe he was your play of the day early last week, right?
I don't think he did that well.
Yeah.
I think he had low 30s or something.
Yeah,
which is serviceable. But the play of the day is about points per dollar value.
Okay.
Which
now
means
that we're
how many
saying that,
points the player gets for how much their price is at.
Yes, relative value. I understand what you're talking about. All right, let's move on to a matchup that we obviously have to talk about, but for 2 different reasons completely. The Lakers are playing at Indiana. The Lakers are one of the worst defenses in the league. They're statistically the bottom 3 against every position defensively, but it's a 13-point spread. The Lakers are playing 2 to 3 new guys in and out of that lineup. We don't know where the minutes are going. This is really hard.
Yeah,
to pick
this game is a headache for me, and I'm personally thinking about avoiding it because this just has blowout written all over it.
No, it doesn't even have blowout. It is. We're saying beforehand, this will be a gigantic blowout. It's going to be a blowout.
Seth has a joke to make that we're not going to allow him to make.
Yeah, we're just gonna have one big buzz, and then Seth can tell this joke while it's censored. Lovely. No, please don't though.
I'm not telling the joke.
Yeah, good. We'll say it off the air.
Yeah, I really think you should shy away from this game. Usually, when you see games like this, and you think there's a chance of putting somebody in, you might look at somebody on the bench that usually gets a lot of minutes anyways, and if it winds up being a blowout, they're going to get a lot of extra run. I have difficulty even seeing that tomorrow.
What? I mean, here's my question. I love Kent Bazemore. This kid he's the guy that they traded for that's getting the run. I mean, he started the other day, had 18 points. I think they said he had like 14 fantasy points total. But he's getting a look to be like their go-to scorer for LA.
Yeah, I think he's exciting, and I think that he's got a lot of potential in the future. I don't know if he's going to be too worthwhile right now.
But he's basically the minimum.
But yeah, his value right now is great. You got to put him in, and I think he also is one of those guys that if it ends up being a blowout, he could still stay in.
Well, I think they're trying to see what they have in him.
Yeah, you want to let the guy get some run.
Yeah, when they were down big against the Celtics, he played him and Marshawn Brooks played the entire fourth quarter and did really well.
So I have a question.
Oh, good.
What about Chris Kaman?
He raised his hand.
What about Chris Kaman?
Yeah.
Chris Kaman's value has gone downhill pretty quickly over the last couple of days because Pau Gasol, as of Saturday, is now back in the lineup, and that greatly damages Kaman's value. I think as Pau continues to get healthier, he'll continue to steal more minutes away from Kamen because even though Pau is known as being a little soft, he does still play defense.
Well,
which
and he also
Chris
plays.
Kamen doesn't do.
He plays down low, which is Chris Kamen's thing. So if you have two guys, the spacing is poor. You're not going to see both of them together. It's not going to end well.
Yeah, Kamen's not going to get enough minutes to produce. And if he does end up getting some minutes and he doesn't convert on those minutes, D'Antoni will pull him immediately.
Once again, we're talking about Mike
D'Antoni,
D'Antoni on the Star Fantasy League show.
I think we should get D'Antoni's picture up behind us.
A gigantic Mike D'Antoni fan. We should get a fat head of D'Antoni. I guarantee they won't make us one.
D'Antoni and Mike Brown having dinner or something. Candlelight dinner.
That would probably happen.
That'd be an amazing fat head.
All right, so what we're
How
trying
can we get that?
What we're saying is we would pretty much avoid this game other than maybe a value play of a Bazemore or something. If you need to get your big names in. All right, let's go to that. Some big. What's that, Seth?
You know where they'd be having dinner?
Oh, great. What?
Andy Reid's chicken and ribs joint.
I'm glad you raised your hand to say that in between. I'm so glad you did that.
I did raise my hand.
Yeah,
Mike Holmgren goes there once a week.
Let's quickly go to a game that I think you're going to avoid as well. Chicago-Atlanta. Paul Millsap out. Are you looking at anything in this game as opposed, or I guess maybe it's down low, right?
It's tough because you got to signal out the value. But Mike Scott is a guy that can really put up some points.
He's been scoring.
Yeah, but and I think his salary will be favorable enough that you should give him a look. But it's difficult to take anybody against the front court of Chicago. And to compile that, I think that Joakim Noah could be a great play tomorrow night.
Joakim Noah, I really hope somebody sits out in that game. If Carlos Boozer sits out, hooray, Taj and Noah are the best picks of the night. But Joakim Noah is regularly putting up 45.
Right, Noah's the only guy that is a constant amongst those bigs because
he passes.
Boozer and Gibson literally split minutes right down the middle, and whoever comes to have a good game is going to get the points, but it doesn't really matter because even if they do, they're not going to get more time than the other one.
Correct.
So you're telling me there are two guys in that game that also have two first names?
Why you gotta ruin the flow?
That's when he interrupts me.
Yeah,
with
this is
something like
completely
that.
wrong. So basically, this is another stay away game. Most likely, Mike Scott for value, possibly. Joakim Noah, I love. I mean, especially who's going to be starting at center? Elton Brand again?
Yeah, he's so solid, and he, in my opinion, should be first team All NBA this year.
At the center position?
At the center position.
It's going to be him and Dwight.
Yeah, him and Dwight are the options. No, I'm talking about Noah.
Oh.
Thank you, Seth, for, again, just your completely awful commentary.
There's a guy with two first names, Brand Elton.
That's not even true.
All right, quickly, let's talk about
You're a damn fool.
Let's talk about a couple guys that are potentially not playing again that could affect games and fantasy standings. Pekovic isn't playing, most likely. LaMarcus Aldridge is still out, and Aaron Aflalo's already been ruled out. Do any of those three guys lead you to go to somebody that's going to be replacing them or somebody who's going to be taking minutes away from them?
I've been absolutely loving Damian Lillard over the past couple games, which as soon as I heard Aldridge was out, I said this is the guy that you got to look at because he wants to shoot. He wants to get involved. He wants to make plays. Yeah. He just hasn't, he has done a good job of fitting into the system as much as he can and giving Aldridge all the opportunities he can, which he deserves. But now that Aldridge is out, I think Lillard is just primed for another big game in what's going to be a pretty favorable matchup. And you have to remember.
He's going against Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, you got to remember that the Denver matchup, although it looks like they're decent against point guards, this isn't Ty Lawson who's playing. This is Aaron Brooks.
I haven't seen a yes or no on him. He's been yes or no game time decision for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah, that's true.
So until you see he's guaranteed to play a couple days in advance, he's still probably not going to play that many minutes if he plays.
Yeah, and I don't think Lawson is a solid defender, but I don't think he's
not shut down.
Yeah, he's not a showstopper, and this is going to be a high scoring game. Damian Lillard should be able to put up more than enough points to hit value.
With an over under a 215, I would definitely be looking at the Denver Portland matchup for more than just one player.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at value, I think of whether somebody can hit 2.5 times what their salary is, like in points.
Yep.
So if they have a 10,000 salary, you're looking at 25 points, something like that. Yep. That's about where you want to hit because then you'll end up with 250 fantasy points on the night, which should win you the majority of your leagues.
Yeah, if you're not winning with 250, somebody's having an incredible night. We'll say that much.
Which can happen all the time.
Oh, yeah,
but
sure.
But that should be your target is to put together a lineup where you think you have the chance of hitting 250 fantasy points.
This is correct. What about Aaron Brooks? He did all right in limited minutes in his first game in Denver. Had about, I believe, 18.5 fantasy points. He's going to get a run against Damian Lillard, who we keep mentioning. I feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but he's one of the worst defensive point guards in the league.
Yeah, Brooks had a decent start last game. It was pretty disappointing with how he ended up in the second half. He really didn't do anything. But he's the guy that has the potential to put up a lot of points. He has a pretty high ceiling, and right now he's got decent value. So I think as long as Lawson doesn't play, he's definitely worth a look.
Yeah. This is all with the caveat that if Ty Lawson plays, you stay away from him. But he's definitely got to look for, because you need a couple of those low value guys to get your studs in. Let's actually move on to that. What kind of stud alert are we looking for? Anybody that
stud alert?
Thank you, Seth, for your contribution as always.
I'm here for the sound effects.
Who are the high level guys that you're really looking forward to?
I'm looking at James Harden tomorrow night.
Yep.
I think
playing
he's got
at Sacramento, another one of those teams we just keep.
Yeah, high over under. It should still be a pretty close game, but Sacramento ranked 24th against shooting guards, and Harden has just been absolutely killing it as of late. I think he'll have a great game. Kevin Love at this point is a guy that can go off in any game, but I don't really like his matchup that much tomorrow night. I'm more looking at guys in the middle level. Isaiah Thomas, I think could have a good game.
You are so all over. I want to say one thing about Kevin Love. Playing Phoenix, I usually say that, he's this dynamic, basic power forward. We don't really know what position he plays. But Phoenix has the bigs that like to go around the perimeter and guard out there. That's not the best matchup for Kevin Love.
No, and with the way Markieff Morris has been playing, I think
out of his mind. Is that what he's saying?
And he's also worth a look for
yes,
sure tomorrow night.
I have him on my list. Yeah,
Dragic is worth a look tomorrow night, no doubt against Rubio.
I hate to say it, but Gerald Green's even worth a look. I
agree.
Chase Buddinger's going to be on him.
I agree. To me, it has seemed like throughout the year that Gerald Green, even though he's obviously had tons of bad games, he's kind of matchup proof. Like he went off against the Heat. You don't really know where he's going to go off.
I would say it's not that he's matchup proof; he's just random. He really goes off at random.
Right.
Okay,
so there's no proof.
Yeah.
There's
no proof.
There's
of what
no
he's doing.
proof. But yeah, I mean, like I remember I took him one time against the Heat, and he went absolutely bonkers. And I don't really know where that comes from, but he does have a favorable matchup tomorrow night. If he's got a solid price tag, I would definitely give him a look.
All right, before we get to your play of the day, who else are we looking forward to? Maybe has a favorable matchup that we haven't talked about.
Bradley Beal. I would definitely give Bradley Beal a look. I would also give John Wall a look, honestly. Orlando's ranked 26th against shooting guards, and I think Beal has the potential to go off.
What about with Oladipo in there guarding? Oladipo's a shutdown guy. He really has proven. He's in the starting lineup now for them. It's a
little bit different, but DeMar DeRozan handled him pretty well the other night. I don't think Beal will have that much of a problem. This is a guy that's just as quick, and I think he can definitely do some damage against him. But John Wall, I don't think Jameer Nelson has any sort of chance against John Wall. John Wall's taller. John Wall's faster. John Wall.
Yeah, really. I was just saying, you could say that pretty much any starting point guard in the league is taller and faster than Jameer Nelson, except for any time that Steve Nash is playing.
What about Raymond Felton?
That's true.
What?
Isn't Raymond Felton really slow?
Yes.
Yeah, but he's also big. All right, quick, Zach. Who is your play of the day? You got to put it in there. Your value play of the day.
James Harden.
James Harden. I feel like this is the second time
That's
in the week
the second
you've
time
gone,
I have chosen James Harden recently. I absolutely love him.
All right, we're coming back and we're going to wrap up the show, and you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
When you struggle with credit
That's 800-950-1180.
The Star Fantasy League Show is now part of the Nick Monsanto Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now.
You're up.
That's it. Right now. Right now, we're giving you the updated info and the best something. Who knows what that guy says? Seriously, every time he says something different, we wrap up the show, and I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah, oh, good. See, Scott knows that what you're about to do, Seth, and he's not allowing it.
What are you talking about?
What you're going to say?
What? That they should turn off the radio?
Wow.
Turn off your radio. Why are you still listening?
I would just like to give another shout out. It's such a privilege to be live here on Rochester Radio with you two, mostly just John.
Yeah, that's true. It's just me.
You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head in disgust and giving Zach the evil eye.
Yeah, it is nice being a part of the Rochester culture. We're up here. We're doing some cool things in the community, and it's nice to have a radio team on board.
Remember that time Seth left the show crying?
That doesn't happen.
Wait, I say, what do you mean that time,
I
Zach?
just want to expand on that. We're doing a lot of stuff locally. We're sponsoring a couple of softball and kickball leagues here. We're really working on giving back here. This is Zach and Justin's hometown, the two co-founders of Star Fantasy Leagues. It's my adopted home. Same with John. We really love it here. It's a great place to grow a company, and we feel privileged to be working with the guys over at Genesee Media. They're fantastic people, and we're looking forward to growing with them in the future.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so sweet.
Come on out and try out your hometown fantasy sports site, which is just offering awesome free games and special tournaments every day.
Yeah, I understand we have a lot of free value given away, Seth. That seems to be your favorite thing to do on the Star
If anybody
Fantasy
decides that they actually really want to tweet us an SFL show, and please don't tweet us an SFL show, we're going to give away a $5 credit as long as you're eligible to play.
Yeah, that's no strings attached. Just tweet us at SFL Show, $5 free in your account.
We have free tournaments every single day. You don't have to put up a penny to enter, but you could win real cash at starfantasyleagues.com. We have thousands of dollars guaranteed in NBA tournaments every single week. And we also run NHL hockey right now, and baseball season's coming up. We'll have even more tournaments for you then.
It just keeps on getting better at starfantasyleagues.com. You guys got to join. It's the best time to join, right? It's
Looking
always
at you, John Kitna.
Of course you're looking at John Kitna. And Seth, this one's for you. If you think Eric Gordon's a great choice, we'll help you make a better team next time.
Gordon!
Take it easy, guys.
Kitna. Gordon!
Good job, guys. We shall see you tomorrow.